Thanks, Kisha. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So, okay, the sections of today's webinar is mainly for our site CRT to do the sharing on what is actually new inside the Business Central. Okay, it's especially useful if you are the current Business Central user or you are planning to upgrade your current ERP into the BC. So this section is mainly to share your guys what will be the new features inside the Business Central as compared to the previous Nav version, if you are actually a Microsoft Navision ERP user before this. Okay, so today's sections, we will go through the 30 tips, okay, on the new Business Central features. Okay, but before that, for those who just joined, okay, you might just refer to the meeting charts for the e-attendance QR code and also the link that I share. So from there, you might register yourself for the attendance, and so later on, you will receive our video recording and also some of the infos about what is new inside the D365 Business Central. Okay, without further delay, because we are trying to complete all these 30 features and what is the new features inside the D365 Business Centrals. So we are trying to complete all these 30 features in the 1 hour sections. So without further delay, let us start. Okay, so as you can see here, this will be the total 30 new features that will later on explain and brief your guys on how it can actually help you on your daily business operations and how you can easily do your own reporting directly inside the Business Central and how it can automate your flow. Okay, of course, if you're actually familiar with the ERP markets itself, you will notice that now there is more and more AI tools and agents that are available in the Microsoft D365 BC. Okay, so later on, we will also go through the AI and also the automations that you can use, especially if you are the current BC cloud users. Okay, so now let's start the first point. Okay, so the first new features inside the D365 BC that also is helpful, okay, useful is called analysis mode. Okay, it's a features that actually can allow the user to direct analyze your data in the list patch inside the BC interface. Okay, back to the past, of course, if you want to do the pivot table and analyze of your data, you might need to export those data into the Excel. But with the new analysis mode inside the BC, user can easily switch the any list patch inside the Business Central into the pivot modes. Okay, so for example, if today we are in the sales order listing, we can always easily switch our screen by go to the list patch and click the analysis mode action button, and so on. We can do the pivot analysis directly inside the Business Central, and all the tabs that we did, it can be easily been shared among the company. Okay, so by doing so, instead of you export it manually into the Excel and do your pivot, now you inside the BC, you can directly drag and drop your fields and do your pivot inside the Business Central. And you can switch it to the normal screen and switch back into the analysis mode anytime by a single click. Okay, so this is some of the use case of the analysis mode. Okay, with the help of the analysis mode in the BC, we can easily analyze the outstanding sales order by region, by customer, by amount. We can do that directly inside the sales order listing. Besides that, if there is a need for you to evaluate your inventory level across the different branch, different locations, or the lot details, you can do it easily inside item ledger entry by set up the analysis mode pivot table directly inside the item ledger entries page. Same goal. We can do that also for the posted purchase invoice. If today you want to view all your outstanding posted purchase invoice, the IP outstanding by vendor, and also the payment status, we can do that in the posted purchase invoice listing. Okay, then of course, if you are familiar with the GL entries analysis, you want to view your sales by the cost center, by department, okay, you can do so directly in the GL entries analysis using the analysis mode. Okay, of course, there is more other sample use case that you can explore after you're familiar with the analysis mode inside the Business Central. Okay, so for today's training session, it's mainly just to give you guys the idea what is the new features that you can explore inside the Business Central and how it can help you on your daily operations. Okay, next we will move to the second point. Okay, second point, we will talk about the Copilot and the AI capabilities inside the D365BC. Okay, so with these AI power features inside the D365BC, the main concept is actually to be more functional and task-oriented as compared to the general AI that we normally see people use for the ChatGPT, all those things, right? The Copilot AI inside the BC is more focusing on the task-oriented and also the functionalities specifics. So let's inside here, okay? So as you can see, inside the D365BC, the Copilot agent capability is actually being segregated by their capability and the task level. So from here, you can see there is a chart analysis, which allows us to do it same like what we use for the ChatGPT, but of course, the data and the question that they answer is using the Business Central as the source data. Okay, so of course, we can also use it inside the analysis list to ease the user by keying the simple prompt for the Copilot to assist you to auto-generate the analysis reports. Okay, it can also help you to summarize the data. For example, you want the Copilot to give you some insight of a specific customer or vendor. Okay, it can also help you to do that. Of course, all the data backbone is using the D365 Business Central to answer your questions. Okay, so inside here, okay, I give you some of the example, okay, the difference between the Business Central built-in Copilot versus the public AI. Okay, for this case, we just example ChatGPT. So from here, we can see that the Copilot embedded inside the BC is mainly for the business process optimizations, okay? And it will work directly with your company Business Central data, no matter it's in the sales module, finance module, inventory module, and etc. Okay? And it will be more context aware because it understands all your BC table relationship and also the business rule. So you can easily ask the related questions from the Copilot inside the BC. Okay, as compared to the public AI, of course, it won't access to your ERP system, no matter you are using Business Central or Navisions. Okay, so the answer that the public AI given will be more general. Okay, of course, it can help you to serve the general purpose of intelligence, can answer your broader questions. Okay, but it will be lack of ERP specific context. Okay, so from here, I give some of the example on how we can actually use the Copilot chat to insert the prompt. Okay, inside this screen, we can see that, okay, in the latest Business Central, we just need to prompt up the Copilot chat. From here, we just type in the prompt saying that help to show the customer group by their locations. Okay, by insert this simple prompt, so Business Central will help us to group up all the customer by their country or region code. From here, they will give us the explanations and also the analysis result. We might just click on the open analysis tab. So as you can see, the Copilot automatically created the analyze chart for us to group our customer by their country region code. Of course, if there is any more details or more specific prompts that you want to insert, you can always update it inside the analysis chart as well. So this is one of the example how the prompt of the Copilot chat can help us to auto create the reports where we want. Okay, for example, second prompts that I insert here help to show the outstanding postal sales invoice group by customer. So I want to see all the outstanding invoice that I yet to receive the collections payment from the customer. Okay, I want you to group all those invoice by customer. Okay, so then the Copilot can also help me to auto-generate the reports by grouping all the outstanding postal invoice, and it also give me the explanation and the reference if you want to expand it further. Of course, inside here, we can insert more details prompt, and if any info fields that I need, for example, I want to have the due date, I can easily drag it, or I can just insert asking the Copilot to help to add the due date in the prompt. And so then the Copilot can assist us to auto group up the invoice, sort by the due date if you want. Okay, beside of doing reports, we can also insert the prompt something like, show me the last postal sales invoice for a specific customer. For this case, I put Addendum Corporations. So I'm just asking the Copilot, ask them to show me the last postal sales invoice for the Addendum. So from here, you can see the Copilot will auto return me the response saying that the last postal sales invoice for Addendum Corporation is this number 103,009. I can easily click on that action button and it will prompt me directly the posted sales invoice. Okay, of course, there are more prompts that you can play around inside the Copilot chat. Okay, if today you are the existing Business Central SaaS model client, you can actually start to play around with the Copilot chat AI and see how it can actually helping you on the daily operations. Okay. Secondly, beside the Copilot chat, okay, so if today you are actually trying to analyze a specific table data, okay, so you can using the Copilot directly inside the analysis mode instead of using the analyze chart. So that means that the answer and the result that given by the Copilot will be more specific because it will only look into the specific table structure. Instead of if you're using the Copilot chart, right, there might be a risk that if you have multiple similar table exist or your prompt might not be clear enough, means that the instruction that you give to the Copilot AI, if it's not clear enough, there is a risk that the response given will be too general. Okay, but if you enter to the analysis mode for a specific table, let's say for this case, I do the item ledger entry. I'm asking them to group the sales, only the sales entry type by month, by document type, by item. So I'm giving the prompt saying that please help to group all my sales entry by month, by document, and by item. And by doing so, as you can see, the system will auto generate me an analysis tab that group me all the cells by the month and by the document. Okay, for this case, because the data is not much, so of course we only see the cell shipment. Okay, so as I mentioned just now, we can always correct our prompt and give more specific instruction if need, or we can also manually adjust the analysis directly inside the analysis tab that created by the Copilot. Okay, so yeah, beside the Copilot for the chart and analysis, Copilot can also help us to do the auto bank account reconciliations. Okay, if you guys has actually used the bank account reconciliation before in the Navision version or the version before the Copilot AI, okay, so system can allow user to import the bank statement directly from the bank CSV or the template provided by your bank. Okay, so but back to the previous one without the Copilot one, you will notice that if the bank transaction reflect in the lump sum, so there will be an issue that the system might not able to map both of the combinations because it's not digested by the combination of the same vendor or same customer. Okay, but with the Copilot, you will see that the Copilot will actually help you to saying that it found that there is a multiple entries can be matched to the specific bank transaction. So we can review and say if that okay, then we keep. So next time the Copilot will understand that they are allowed to map multiple entry into a single bank statement line. So by doing so, the Copilot can provide more high chances matching between your bank statement versus the bank ledger entries that you post inside the ERP. So it gives you a better suggestion in terms of matching, and also you can direct import your bank statement for the Copilot to digest the specific format. So in that case, so the bank account reconciliation can be performed seamlessly with the Copilot assist. Okay, for this case, you can see that if there is additional bank charges happen, means that at the end of the month, if suddenly there is a new bank charges occur inside the bank statement, okay, you can easily pause the difference to the GL through the Copilot. If you auto search for the relevant GL and suggest it, for this case, you see the Copilot suggests me to pause to the GL 6 at 10 because it found that that specific GL description is talk something related to the charges. So for this case, bank charges, right? It found that it's relevant to the bank charges. So it suggests me to pause to that GL. So of course, I can still review before I actually grant the permission for the Copilot to auto insert the line on behalf. Okay, so this is what the Copilot can help us on the bank account record. Of course, there are still more other features that the Copilot can do. They can help us to summarize the customer details, give us the better insights, as what I mentioned just now. Okay, so there are more things that you can explore. You can always go to your Copilot and AI capability page to view all the available functions that the Copilot support. Okay. So, but for these sessions, of course, I just highlighted, pinpoint the 3 commonly used or we found that is useful for your operations. Okay, so now the point number 3, okay, so if you know that assisting instead of you do the reporting manually of the BC, okay, you can also do the Excel layout report directly inside the BC and then re-import it back into the Business Central. So then any of your colleague with the permission, they can extract back the Excel report layout from the BC. For example, you can see now standard the reports whenever we customize, no matter you are customized by the partner or is a standard Microsoft reports, mainly is actually in the PDF format. Of course, we can export to Excel. But back to the old time, we are not allowed to re-import the Excel structure after we modify. But with the latest BC, after we adjust the layout, we design our chart, we design our pivot in the Excel, we can always re-import back the Excel into the BC. So then the structure will be auto-update. So we will have the options to export the Excel layout. For example, this is an example. So I export out the vendor order details report into the Excel. Then I design the chart, design the pivot or the graph. And I just need to re-import back all this Excel into my BC. So any of my colleagues, when they do the filtering inside their report, they can always re-extract back up these Excel reports directly from the BC. Okay, so it means that it gives you the flexibility to design your Excel report without any so-called coding knowledge. You can just do it directly in the Excel and re-import it back into the Business Central. Okay, so point number 4, okay, the new features, we also have another things called report filter settings. Okay, so of course, back to the old time, we also have the report filter to set the options, but now it allows you to set the report filter and share among your colleagues and even across the company. So it can help you to save time and improve the accuracy, especially if today there is a newcomer to your office. They might not know what is the previous filtering every time when they want to run this report. So they might need some guidance from the senior. But with this report filter setting, the senior can always pre-configure the default filter setting. They can even have multiple filtering. Okay, for this case, I just do a very quick example. I set the filtering setting for finished good and raw max. So every time when my newcomers, colleagues, or juniors trying to run their reports, they can drop down the default value from my filter report setting. So when they select finished good, you see the inventory posting group will default as the FG. So when they select the raw mat, the inventory posting group will default as the raw mat. Okay, all these report setting can be pre-filtered and pre-set into a specific report. So it can ease the knowledge transfer, especially when there is a newcomer, because they might not know what is the filter criteria they should use whenever there is a need for them to run that report. Okay, of course, the example that I give here is by inventory posting group. You can do it by the branch or by different criteria you need if required. Okay, this is just some example. Okay, point number 5, sorry. Okay, Existing, we also have the notification of job queue failure with the support of the Power Automate. Okay, later on we'll talk a bit details also on the Power Automate to give you ideas how the Power Automate can help you on automating your process flow. Okay, but for this case, you can see that now, back to the past, okay, the job queue dashboard in the Business Central will only show those job queue that into the dashboard for the user that they actually update or trigger the job queue. But now they allow you to set up the job queue administrator. So it means that if today your account been set up as the administrator, so you will see all the related tasks, even though the job queue task is not activated by you or not triggered by you. So before means that if I'm not the person who triggered the job queue, I will not able to see is there any job queue field because I'm not the job queue admin, unless the job queue that field is triggered by my ID. But now if I set myself as the administrator, even though the task is not activated by me, so when it's filled, it will also reflect into my dashboard. Besides, this is the in-system response right notification. We can also have the external email notification by activate the automate job queue notifications. By doing this, okay, so we add a workflow saying that whenever there is any job queue field, we want the email notification. Okay, so as you can see, after I set up the automate job queue notification, a new workflow will be created inside our Power Automate portal. And so when there is any job queue field, a response will be sent something like this. The job process of either tracing, scheduled by who, in which company is filled. Okay, so it is us as the administrator to get the real-time notification whenever there is any job queue field, especially if your job queue is set overnight. So sometimes if the admin forget to check the job queue entries on the next day, there is the chances that the job queue field but no one aware of that. But with these job queue notifications, whenever there is any failure of any job queue, the system admin can always get the real-time update through the in-system or through the email. Okay, point number 6. Okay, the latest BC will also have one feature called sensitive field monitoring. Okay, this is also help for the user or the system admin to trace those sensitive fields or critical data to avoid the unauthorized user from simply modify those data. For example, the bank account number, customer credit limit, employee salary details, and etc. So this sensitive field monitoring gives the real-time notification to the system admin whenever someone modify a sensitive field. So for example, inside the BC, we have one thing called data classification worksheet, allow us to classify our data based on their data sensitivity. Okay, so if a specific field that you feel that is sensitive, for example, broad credit limit, etc., right? We can just change the data sensitivity to sensitive. Okay, or any other company confidential info, you can also classify the data. Okay, after you classify the data sensitivity, next, you just need to go to the monitor field worksheet, and then you'll get the related fields that you want to monitor and trigger the notifications. So we can just set for notification. By doing so, whenever someone trying to modify the fields that we actually update as sensitive and tick the notification, so we will receive an email something like this, saying that someone who is the user that changed the which field from which value to which value, and what is the date and time that the user changing. Okay, in case if the user is not authorized to do so, okay, because sometimes we might accidentally give the wrong permission, right? It also gives you the options to direct access to the user permission. So from there, we can remove the permission if required. Because if we found that, hey, this user not supposedly to modify the customer, okay, we can easily access to the BC on the specific user effective permission and remove the permission. Okay, so this is the sensitive field monitoring. Okay, beside, okay, the point number 7, if you are doing the e-commerce business. Example, if you are using the Shopify platform for your business or your e-commerce, okay, now Business Central provide a embedded integrations connector. So we have the default Shopify connectors, which allow us to easily integrate the Business Central with the Shopify store that we have inside the Shopify portal. Okay, it allows us to direct access the e-commerce operations through the Business Central ERP system. So we can have the seamless integration to explore our inventory level into the e-commerce portal. So of course, we can set up a range of the stocks to be available or to be published into the e-commerce platform. And then we can automatically sync the order from the Shopify portal into the Business Central. So user will just require to accept those orders in the ERP and arrange the shipment and invoice accordingly. Okay, so on here, I will have one videos to show you guys how it can work. But because this one is actually take almost 10 minutes for this video to run, okay? So later on, I will share out these videos through with the materials that, okay? So for these sessions, I just to give you guys the understanding that with the latest Business Central, we can easily integrate our Shopify portal with the Business Central. Okay, so I will talk about this video. Okay, next, we have another new features called table information. It provides us the visibility of the number of records in the system by the business table. So it means that we're able to see which table that consume most of our database size and which table is actually having the most number of records. So from there, we can identify the usability and we have the insight of the usage of our business in the Business Central. So it means that from there, we can know that which modules that actually mostly been used. And then we can analyze the performance problem in case that the database size is grow too fast. But of course, take not to run this checking during the operation hour, because if you're going to check up all your table resource, right? So it's going to impact your system performance. Okay, so this is the example. So from here, you can see I can easily check all the tables by different company and check all the number of records. So from there, we were able to know for each company how many sales header records that I have and what is the record size that take up my database storage. Okay, so with that, we can easily identify, is there a need for us to increase our cloud storage, or is there something wrong with our business operation process? Is that those data that not relevant, should we set up the retention policy to clear the redundant data, redundant log? Okay, later on we'll talk about also a new features called retention policy. Yes. So in the point number 8, we talk about the table info, right? We can see the number of record and also the database size. Okay, point number 9, we talk about the retention policy. Okay, this is the place where the system admin or the administrator can specify how often a specific table data should be removed or be archived. Because sometimes our log entry or archive records is actually not useful for our business analysis, but then it takes up most of our storage space. For example, if you activate the change log entries for a lot of records, then the log entries will take up majority of our database size, right? So with the retention policy, we can set up the validity period of the data. So once the data is expired, we can do the filtering to exclude or the system to auto delete the data after a certain period. So for example, we talk about the change log and etc., right? We can set up the retention period. So every 1 month or every 6 months, I want to clear all my log entries. Okay, so we can set up those entries to be clear by the retention policy with the validity or expiration period. So by doing that, it's helpful for us to maintain the database size in a control and maintainable database size. Okay, so this is an example of how we can set up the retention policies. Okay, so beside we talk about the maintain of the database size through the retention policies. In the BC SaaS Cloud, we also have the OneDrive integrations for the document attachment. Okay, this is especially helpful for the business that have the concern of the data security of the attachment that you upload into the ERP. Because sometimes some of the sensitive data you have the security concern because there's a risk that the unauthorized user might accidentally access those attachments that you upload. Okay, but with the OneDrive integrations, it not only helps us to save reduce the impact towards the Business Central database size because all the data will be stored under the OneDrive database, right? So it also helps us to maintain the database security, the attachment security. Okay, we can easily connect our OneDrive to the Business Cloud. Okay, so from here, as you can see, I can set up the file crop storage to my OneDrive. By doing so, a folder will be auto-generated in our OneDrive, and then attachment that we upload into the BC will store inside our OneDrive. And so on, we can configure the permissions, the sharing or download permissions directly in the OneDrive. So it can help us to maintain the security up of the Business Central with the permissions that actually the sharing permissions that we configure in the OneDrive. Okay, so it's especially helpful for those business that require to upload a message of the attachment data into the Business Central for the checking and etc. Okay, so next, okay, these are minor features, but then it's also useful. Okay, because it allows you to upload multiple document file in a single upload. Okay, you will notice that previously the old way of doing, right, we will need to click into the attachment document link and upload the file one by one. So if you want to upload 10 file, then you might need to upload 10 times. But with the new document attachment functions, okay, it allows us to drag and drop multiple files in a single click. So we can upload 10 files in one go into the Business Central now. Okay, so it's a minor thing, but then I will say it's useful, especially if you are the daily operation user, which require upload multiple files to the sales order or to the purchase invoice and etc. Okay, so point 12, we are talking about the variance block. Okay, so this is mainly for those business if you are maintain the item variance code. Okay, previously the item variance, right, we are not allowed to block it by variance code. We can only block the specific item directly in the item master card. But with these new features, now we can actually block by item variance. Means that instead of block the whole item, we can now block it by the different variants. Let's say if a specific brand we are no longer selling, so instead block the whole item, we can now block only the specific brand. Okay, so this is a minor thing, but I would say it's useful and helpful if you are using it. Okay, point 13, we are talking about the multiple posting group. Okay, these features allow the user to configure the alternate posting group for a single customer card. Okay, this is for the scenario if today you are dealing with a single customer, but then for both local and export scenario. So means that if you're doing a single customer for both local sales and export sales, and you are expecting to split the AR by local and overseas, so then these features will be helpful. It allows you to maintain a single customer card, but with multiple customer posting group. Okay, same logic apply to the vendor side. Okay, so for sales and purchase, we also have these functions called allow multiple posting group. By doing so, we can set up the alternative customer posting group. So whenever we create a sales or purchase document, if the specific customer is allowed for multiple posting group, we can always drop down the customer posting group and switch it accordingly. Of course, by default, it will still capture the default customer posting group that we set up in the customer card. So it gives you the flexibility to configure your AR, the account receivable and account payable, into a different GL. Okay, so because back to the old day, a lot of companies, in order to achieve this, they might actually maintain multiple customer card. Okay, but with these features, now we can maintain a single customer card to serve for both local and export sales scenario. Okay, point 14. Okay, just now we talked about the AI, right? So point 14, we talk about the reminder automations. So what we have here is, if you are using the reminder features in the Navision or Business Central before, you will notice that you will need to generate the reminder document manually every month in order for you to have the reminder letter to the specific customer. And now, with this new BC, we have the features called reminder automations. You can set up the email template and also the frequency of the reminder and set up the number of reminder in the reminder automation setup page. So by doing this, the system will auto-generate the reminder. Okay, so for example, we can set up the reminder to remind the customer for the outstanding AR by weekly, by monthly, or by quarterly. Depends on how frequent that you want to set up the scheduling, and then the start date of the reminder automations. So from here, the reminder actions mainly categorized into 3 parts: create reminder, issue reminder, and send reminder. Okay, if you want all this process to be automated, then you can set up 3 automation actions for the reminder. But if let's say you have the concern for the system to auto-generate the reminder letter, you want the system to generate reminder letter but not auto-send to your customer, you can just set up for the first and second without the send reminder. Okay, or if you want the system to auto-create and send but not to issue automatically, you can also set up that way. So means that the system will auto-generate the reminder letter, but it won't send until the user come in and verify the result. So you have a lot of the combination that you can play around for the reminder automation. So the key concept is just to give you the flexibility to configure and automate your user process instead of they need to follow up manually with the customer for those long overdue AR. We can now using the reminder automation. We can even set up the grace period. Okay, because the reminder letter, if we didn't set up the grace period, of course, once the invoice due, then you will keep on send out the reminder. But we can set a grace period, let's say only 1 month after due date, only we start to trigger the reminder, something like that. Okay, so this is how reminder can also helping to expedite and automate the monthly operation or weekly operations that your team that currently perform. Okay, so this is some of the example. Okay, we can also define whether the reminder letter need to attach the invoice document or not. If you want the reminder, not only send out the reminder letter, but also attach all the outstanding invoice, we can set up accordingly. Okay, so this is how the reminder automations can be worked. Okay, so now next point 15, we will move to the production side. Okay, so if you used to use the manufacturing production order before in the Business Central or old Business Central or Navision version, you will notice that one of the issues that the user facing is if the production order have posted consumption but no output due to some reason. Okay, back to the old time, they are still required to post a dummy output in order to finish the production order. Then only afterward they do the manual journal adjustment to adjust out the stock, the inventory. But with the latest BC, now we can easily cancel our production order even with the consumption. So the consumption cost will then be moved to a specific adjustment account as part of our production cost or manufacturing cost. Okay, so it gives the flexibility for the user or for the business to finish the production order with the consumption but without the output. But of course, it gives you also the flexibility to configure whether you want to allow this behavior or not. Okay, so if we allow, so we can set up, the system admin can set up in the manufacturing setup page saying that we are allowed the finishing of production order without the output. Okay, so besides, now we can also easily reverse our production order before we finish the production order. Okay. And beside the reversal of the production order consumption or the cancellation of production order after consumption, right? Now, with the new BC, they also give you another option to set up the non-inventory item into your production BOM. So means that now you can take your non-inventory item into part of your output cost. Okay, so you can track the non-inventory item in your production. Of course, whether to include it in the cost or not, it depends. There is an option for you to configure. For this case, we can include our packaging material because it's non-inventory item, right? I can still set up into my production BOM, and then there will have a separate sections in our production order statistic for us to review all the non-inventory production material costs. Okay, and we can also have the options in the manufacturing setup to tell the system that whether we want to include the cost of non-inventory item into the cost of produced item or not. So means that, of course, activate this or not, it won't impact us to set up the non-inventory item into our production BOM. Just that activate this, the non-inventory item cost will be part of our finished good cost. Okay, so it's actually optional whether you want to include your non-inventory item cost into the produced items cost or not. Okay, point 17. Okay, now it gives you also another flexibility for you to trace the GL source currency code and also the source amount. Okay, back to the old time, all the GL entries will always be converted into the local currency, or we call it LCY, because in the Business Central or Navision version, it only allows you to set up a single local currency. So for example, if I set a company, the local currency is MYR, they only have one MYR. But with this new BC, now it gives you the info on the source currency code and source currency amount. So we can easily trace the source currency of that specific GL. It can be a different currency code. Okay, so we can also view the source currency in the GL account card if need. Point 18. We can now correct the wrongly posted dimension directly inside the GL entry page. So means that if you found that you accidentally post the wrong dimensions for your grouping of department, cost center, product category, and so on, right? We can now correct those wrongly posted dimensions inside the GL entries with features called correct dimensions. So we can just simply update the new dimension value and then run the correction actions. And so system will record all the dimensions that we correct, and we can also view all the historical of dimensions correction if need. So from here, we have this history of dimensions corrections. Allow us to view all the dimensions that the user or the finance corrected. Okay, so beside that, now we can also give a new features called BC connectivity troubleshooting. So this one is for the case that if you have the login issue to the Business Central platform, but you're not sure what is the issue, right? You can just easily go to your link, Business Central, and type the connectivity behind the link. And then the system will auto troubleshoot, check your internet connectivity, your Business Central resource with the Azure, your authentication, and the environment, etc. So it will troubleshoot to make sure all the connectivity is in place or not. Okay, besides the checking of the connectivity, in the BC, we also have the features called enable data checking. By enable the data checking, so now the system will auto give you a fat box on the document check issues even before you run the posting. Okay, previously we only found this error when we do the posting, but with this enable data check, the system will check is there any miss out of dimensions, any wrong data, or any miss out data inside the document or not before the posting. So it gives you a real-time issue checking. the real-time troubleshooting and give you the real-time warning before you create or post a document. Okay. So next, we also have a feature called allocation account. In this allocation account, it gives us to actually segregate the expenses or the income that we post into the multiple line. So we can prorate it by dimension. For example, I have the delivery expenses. I have my office furniture expenses. I have the stationery expenses. Okay, I want to split all these expenses by department. But of course, all these expenses in the GL, I only use one GL. I can prorate them by the share or by percent and set up the different dimensions. So by doing so, every time when I post the stationery expenses, it will auto prorate it into the different department. So it's expedite the process on how the finance user can actually allocate the different office supply or stationery costs into the different cost center or different department. Okay, so this is a new line type that allows us to actually set up the allocation account inside the Business Central sales or purchase document. Okay, so as you can see, it will prorate our expenses into the different line. So we can configure it by different dimensions. Okay, point 22. So we have another feature called search company data. Okay, what is used for? Search company data give you the flexibility to search all the Business Central table data with minimum 3 characters. You can just type minimum 3 characters, then system will check all the related table, see if there any record with this data. So it's kind of do a global searching. So for this case example, I type a test. So you see, check all my contact with the test one, the address with the test one, the email with the test one, and even more. So it check also my customer card. Is there any customer card data with this wording called test? So I have one customer called KC demo test, right? So it prompt out. So also the item card, it check is there any item description, any item UOM or whatever with the test wording. It show all this record. So it's easy us to do the data checking whenever required. And we can even set up what is the table that we want to search for. Just in case, for example, the GL entry is too much, right? We don't want to take up so many system resource just to search the GL entry. So I can exclude that specific table. So we can set up the search of global data by different business role. So for example, the sales order processor, I will not require to check some of the table. I can always untick those tables. So system will not check the related table when I search using the global search company data. So it can speed up the searching process. Okay, point 23. Okay, back to the old time. If there is any new fields that to be pulled out into the front end, if let's say the field is not being pulled into the front end, right? Because the back end, if you know, there's a lot of fields. Okay, back to the old time, you will always require to look for CRT or your partners to pull those fields into the patch. But now, with the latest BC, we can easily customize the patch and pull all the fields that are available in the table into the front end. Okay, so now you can see we can pull all the fields. No matter is actually available in the front end or not. With these features, now we can actually add any fields of that table into the front end. Of course, same goes, we can hide those fields if we want. Okay, so we can drag the field by different role. Okay, so means that we can help our different department user to configure and drag those fields that they require through this add new fields functions. Okay, point 24. Beside the in-system analysis, or you are actually have any third-party software, or you are trying to do any external reporting. So in the BC, we have the features called web service, which allow you to extract any table data of BC into the Excel.
So with this method, we will just require to copy the all data link from the BC, and we can always easily communicate our Excel data with the BC. For example, okay, this one I'll do a very quick show. Okay, for example, I just go to my web service. So inside here, we already have so many of the different links or different data I want. But now I want to extract my customer ledger entries into the Excel. I will just need to copy this link, open me a blank Excel. Okay, so of course, if you found that any page on any table that you want to export but not available here, you can easily create a new web service and allow the user to access those data from the Excel. So for example, I want to connect my Excel with my BC. I just come to data here and click the get all data feed. Okay, then we insert the all data link into this specific feed table. Okay, sorry, I think I missed. Okay, let me copy again the link. Okay, I'll copy the link. Okay, I paste the link here. Hey, by just a copy of link and simple integrations, right? And now you see all my Excel, sorry, all the data in my BC will now available into my Excel. I just need to click log. So our Excel will auto query to the Business Central Cloud. And so then the data will available in our Excel. And so we can do our pivot and reporting in this Excel. And from time to time, we just need to click refresh all. So every time we refresh, the data will once again calling from the BC into the Excel. Of course, this one is the condition you have the authorized permission to do so. Okay, move on. Next. Point 25, we have the feature called patch scripting. Patch scripting is the features that is us as the tester, okay, to speed up our testing process. Okay, means that we can set up the patch scripting to auto save the process, all the steps that we perform inside the Business Central. So every time when there is a required to retest the scenario, we just need to replay the patch scripting. So system will auto play back the step that we perform inside the BC. So it helps us as the tester to speed up the testing process. Okay. So point 26. Another features that we have is called statistical account. Okay, this is a new module in the BC, which allow us to record the non-monetary info. Okay, because we have the GL account to record all the financial monetary related entries, right? The statistical account allow us to record the number of kilowatt that we consume in the machine. So we can record all the usage of the utilities for our kilowatt of power, and also the flow meter of our water expenses. We can compare the usability of the non-monetary statistical records. We can also record the number of the salesmen we have in each branch to against it with our entertainment expenses of the branches. We can maintain all the non-monetary statistical into the Business Central with this statistical account, and then we can actually combine it with our financial report. So for example, after we design the financial report, okay, in the financial report, we can insert another line called statistical account. So we can compare all our expenses with the statistical account by different branch. So we can have the number of employees in the branch, number of kilowatts, number of water usage by different branch against the monetary expenses, means the finance expenses of that utilities. So we can have this kind of comparison reports inside the Business Central. Okay, so this is an example on how we can have the statistical account. And so we can include the statistical account report into our P&L income statement or balance sheet report if required. Okay, so yeah, Okay, so this is just some difference between the GL account and the statistical account. So GL account is for us to record the financial transactions and data. The statistical account gives us to collect all those non-financial data for our analysis and reporting purpose. Okay, of course, it won't impact any of our GL because it's a separate ledger entries. So you will not require any double entries as compared to the GL. Statistical will just a single entries to post in the quantity or the statistical value that you are trying to analyze. It can be anything. Okay, point 27, we'll start to talk about on the Power Platform of the Microsoft. Okay, this is especially useful if you can visualize how it can actually help you on the future business automations and the process flow. Okay, if you are familiar with the Microsoft product, nowadays they are trying to extend the ERP, not only stop in the ERP, but on the Copilot AI and also the Power Platform automations. Okay, Power Automate is just one of the product in the Power Platform family. Okay, but with the Power Automate, we can easily use it to trigger the notifications or the reminder. So this is some of the use case scenario. Okay, means scenario one, whenever the sales order release, I can trigger a notification to inform the warehouse saying that this order is released. Kindly get prepared for the shipment. So the warehouse will get notified and start to prepare the shipment. Second scenario, we can use whenever there is a customer over credit limit. So when I will post an invoice for the customer, if that invoice after posting is triggered over credit limit, so then the related user get a knowledge on this, so they can do the necessary actions. Same goes, once the warehouse posts the sales shipment, with the Power Automate, once there is a shipment posted, the system will also trigger the reminder to the finance or to the, if you want to direct send the DO, your delivery order to the customer, you can do so as well with the help of the Power Automate. So then they will receive the DO saying that the shipment already been shipped. Same so, if you are a Malaysian company that using the Malaysia e-invoice, so with Automate, we can also say that once the invoice posted and validated, we trigger the reminder to the finance department or trigger the reminder to the customer saying that that specific invoice has been posted or validated. So scenario 5, whenever there is a payment collected, means that once the customer make the payment, so when the AI user post the payment collected, so you can also use the Power Automate to trigger the auto notifications to the AR manager, to the finance manager saying that this specific payment has been collected. Okay, same goal. Just now we talked about the sales side, right? In the AP side also said, whenever the PO release, receiving posted, invoice posted, payment paid to the supplier. Okay, we can also have the auto contract registrations. Means that we can automate the process saying that whenever there is someone register themselves as our contact, okay, then we want it to be auto create the contact card into our business central. We can also have the auto task reminder if you want. Okay, with this, then the system can auto generate the contact card in the PC by filling up the Power Automate. Okay, so this is some of the automate flow that we can configure in the Power Automate portal. Okay, we can connect this Power Automate portal with the Business Central Cloud. Okay, beside the Power Automate, next we'll talk about the Power BI reports. Okay, beside using the Excel as the reporting tools, Business Central also have the embedded Power BI platform, which allow the BC Cloud user to directly install the Power BI apps into the BC or in the Power BI portal. So there is some of the default embedded dashboard and the report available there. Okay, so we see your Business Central with the Power BI apps to have all those data to reflect accordingly. And in case if you prefer to design your own Power BI report, you can always create your own workspace in the Power BI. Okay, for example, you can communicate your Business Central data into the Power BI desktop, and you design your own report, your own dashboard using the Business Central data to see your monthly orders, monthly sales, your outstanding AR, your outstanding AP, your overdue, I mean the customer with the over credit limit, etc. So you can easily design and develop your own BI report inside the Power BI desktop. And same go, if today you are using multiple ERP software or multiple software, you can easily do the cross database reporting. You can combine, you can do your consolidation report in the case if you have multiple companies using the different software. Okay, and all this you can did it directly in the Power BI desktop. Okay. Okay, point 29, of course, we can drill down the shortcut key. Okay, in case if you are the okay, of course, this is just a minor thing, but then it's a shortcut key allow user to speed up your operation process by just simply click Control Alternate down, and then it will drill you into the specific detail page. Okay, last, the functions that we have is the BC mobile app with the search functions. Okay, if you used to use the BC mobile apps or tablet before, okay, you will now found that by update your BC mobile apps, the latest BC mobile app versions give you the functions called search functions, which allow you to search any module, any page, or any report as what you can did inside the web browser. By doing this, of course, you can do a more friendly searching and more real-time reporting in case if you want to generate any report outside the office. Okay, so this is the new features that we have in the BC. Okay, so that's all for the 13 new features that we're going to share in today's webinar sharing sections. But of course, in this section, due to the time limits, of course, I won't talk in all the details on how to configure, how to use it. But of course, with the hope and the concept to give your guys there is the understanding saying that this is the new features that we have in the BC. And so, of course, if you're interested in all any of those features, you can easily expose and search those data through online, or you can always contact CRT support teams. Okay, if you are our existing customer, you can easily contact our support team. Or if you are not the existing customer, but you're interested to know more on the specific features, you are feel free to contact any of our sales team to have more explore on what we can do inside the Business Central. Okay, yeah, before I end, okay, so if you have any questions, yeah, you are feel free to ask. You can, if you are shy to talk, open the mic, you can just type it in the meeting chat. Okay, or else, yeah, I think that's all for the sharing sessions of what is new inside the Business Central. Okay, hope you learned something from today's sections. Okay, yeah, I think that's all. Yeah, that's all for my side. So, Tisha, back to you.
All right, thanks, Casey. Okay,